Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Baroto Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Baroto. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at The Baroto. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast by visiting thebaroto.com/thepodcast. Or you could just press that little subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. Thanks so much and enjoy the show. Super happy to have you with me. It's a crazy time out there, for sure. I think this has taught me a lot, not just doing all these podcasts and talking to a lot of different people, but man, just kind of really getting used to this new way of life, right? And I talked about it on my last one where it's not really a new way of life. It's just I think we kind of got to the point where we're way too comfortable, with not necessarily each other, but with the world around us, and that the world is dangerous, super dangerous. And this disease is really showing us that, one thing that you can't even see can take out an entire world, mentally, physically, literally, eradicate us. And we really have to start focusing on what that means from a macro level. Like, what does that mean? Does it mean that we should just go back to the way things were? No, I think we got to rethink a lot. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, to how do we mentally prepare ourselves to start having those conversations and rethinking how you live your life and what you do for you. And that's really what this episode is about. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us individual people. What can we do individually? Before we get into today's episode, can't even talk though. Jesus, I haven't done this thing in 2 weeks and I forgot how to do it. But before we get into today's episode, I do want to thank our friends over at Superfat. So Superfat is my go-to snack. My wife knows anywhere we go, if I forget it, she'll have something in her purse. She'll have a little nut butter. She'll have some keto cookie bites. She'll have something for me because she knows Superfat is my guilty pleasure. If you guys don't know, Superfat is a keto-friendly, paleo and vegan-friendly company. They create healthy snacks that are travel size. They're not big and bulky, so that way you don't have to keep them in your pantry. You can bring them on the go with you. These little nut butters you can literally throw in anywhere. I use them for a pre-workout snack. You could travel with them whenever we're allowed to travel again, because they're TSA approved. They're less than 3 ounces, and they just came out with 2 baking mixes. Me and the wife just tried this. I'll leave a link to the video if you guys haven't seen it, but we created some keto some keto brownies from Superfat's keto brownie mix, and that was a fun time. It was a cool video. We put that together, but they also have pancake mix as well. So they have just tons of cool products. I use this stuff literally every day because I just love this company. It's a great company. A lot of cool people over there. You can visit superfat.com to learn about the company. If you want a discount just for listening to this podcast and follow me, you can use the code BERARDO10, all one word, all caps, and you're getting a 10% discount on your entire purchase. So I recommend you try out a little bit of everything. Maybe try some brownie mix, try some keto cookie bites, try some delicious nut butter, and you will not regret it, friends. Try superfat.com. Use the code BERARDO10. So without further ado, let's talk turkey. Let's talk about what the hell's been going on. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. Me and the wife did some interesting things that we haven't done before, which was just stay at home by ourselves and have the holidays. We've never ever done that before. It's kind of weird. We thought it was going to be fun. And it kind of was, I guess. It was okay. It was weird not having people around for the holidays, though. Like, we did all this decorating and all this cooking, and we obviously didn't cook as much. And then, of course, we got the new house, so we were a little disappointed we couldn't have a lot of people over all at once. We had people individually, like my mother-in-law came over, and my father came over separately, and my mother's coming over in a few weeks. So we kind of been doing these little micro holidays. I don't know. It's kind of funky. So we'll see. We got a whole nother year to figure this thing out, and we still got Christmas coming. So get excited. But hopefully everyone's holiday was great and everyone's staying healthy and happy. And that's the key, right? Because I know it's a tough time. I know it's tough to really just stay motivated. And it's hard to listen to people too, right? Because there's so many different ideologies and ideas. And, is this dangerous? Is it not? Is the vaccine a cure? Is it a microchip that tracks us? Like, there's so many different ideas out there. And I think the one thing that's the X factor that always stays the same, that we shouldn't fuck around with and we shouldn't judge each other and shouldn't change, is just us being us being humans. We're all humans, right? We're the same species. We're supposed to take care of each other. And we're always worrying about other people's ideologies and their opinions on things. And I think the one thing we individually, one-on-one, have to worry about is just us. How do we make ourselves better? How do we make ourselves happy and healthy? And whether you believe in COVID or not, hopefully this really woke you up a little bit and said, fuck, I'm kind of unhealthy. I need to do something here. And maybe this did it for you. Maybe this is a kind of a wake-up call. But more importantly, I think we all have to identify what we need to do on a daily basis. Do we need to be healthy? Do we need to take vitamins? Do we need to work out? Do we need to eat right? How's our job going? So these are all things I kind of want to touch base on really quick. Really quick. I just hit puberty. My voice cracked. But I do want to touch base on these things really quick because I think it's so crucial now more than ever that you can do a couple things. You can pick up some hobbies if you don't have any. Now you have the time to do it. Now you have the time to pick up some hobbies and to really focus on what you want to do and not worry about other people. And I know that's a challenge. I know it's a challenge because we always want to hear what other people have to say. We need some type of gratification for some reason. It's so strange. I mean, I've really realized the last 6 months in particular that going above and beyond to take care of yourself and the people really close to you, for me, it's my wife, but going above and beyond taking care of you and what you have to do personally, whether that's health related or your work or, your hobbies or whatever it is, if you just do that, if you can just take care of you, everything else happens. Because if you could take care of you, then you're going to be happy. You're going to exude and you're going to spray out positivity all over the place. That was kind of a gross reference, but you're going to give that to your spouse or to your family member, and you're going to give that positivity to them. And then, of course, if they're doing what they have to do, right? So we'll use my wife as an example. If she's staying positive and she's taking care of herself and she's doing the right things to make herself happy, she's going to be happy, which in turn, if she's happy, I'm going to see her walking up and down the kitchen. She's happy, I'm happy, and vice versa, right? So sometimes we want to take care of everyone else, and that's great, and that's fine, and that's very noble and very generous of you. But you got to take care of yourself first. What do they say when you're on an airplane? They say if the plane's going down and the oxygen mask comes down, right, from the ceiling, you put yours on first before you put on anyone else's, because you have to take care of yourself first. So why aren't we treating life like that? You need to take care of yourself first, because if your life is in disarray and you're upset and you don't like where you work, or you don't like what you're doing with your free time, or your money situation is not where it needs to be, and if you're not happy, then everyone around you is going to be miserable. And now more than ever, I think you really have to take the time to identify what makes you happy and what doesn't. And you have to focus on you. Now you have the time because there's no pressure to go out. I know we want to go out. I want to go out. My whole work is events and marketing and getting out and meeting people. But I've really turned this, horrible situation into a blessing. I've focused a lot on our personal life and, our financial success and our future and starting a family. And, these are all things that I wouldn't be able to do if I was going gung-ho entertaining everybody and spending every weekend with different friends and, traveling all over the place like I wanted to. It kind of made me a little bit more self-aware of what I wanted to do. And, maybe what I want to do is going to be different than what you want to do, right? So what I'm saying might not make sense, but all I know is if you just focus on yourself and you could focus on doing what makes you the happiest, everything else is going to work out. I think we need to stop feeling the pressure of what everyone else is thinking, what everyone else is doing. What your friend on Instagram is doing with their life has nothing to do with you. In fact, whether you like that post or dislike that post, or whether they like your post or don't like your post, or don't even talk to you or don't even call to you, that doesn't matter. You can't let that stuff get you down, because it's not what happens to us in life, it's how we react to it. That's what's important. How you react to things are what's most important in your life, not what actually happens. Because good shit is going to happen to bad people and bad shit's going to happen to good people. And that's just the way of life. There's a lot of up and downs in life, but how you react to those things are what's the most important. And if some of us are lucky enough to still have a job, the one thing I've really noticed is you're not really happy until you love where you work, right? Because you're doing that 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So if you're doing that all the time and you're unhappy, I think you need to look at that too. I think you need to use this time wisely to maybe build a resume and get your resume out there, and maybe, experiment with some things. Maybe you want to try content creation and work for yourself and be a freelancer. Maybe you want to do that, but it's a lot of work. So you do the research. Now you have the time to do research, because we're, technically stuck on lockdown in some states. So, I think it's important you figure out what you want to do with your job. And if you love your job, like I do, then that's great. But what do you bring into your job, though? That's one thing I realized is, are you really bringing 100%? Because I've always worked from home the last probably 4 years or so. So for me, working from home is not that big of a deal. This is how it would be every other day. But a lot of people, if you're starting to work at home and this is your first time, are you really working hard? Or are you kind of dicking around because you can get away with it because you're working from home? Yeah. I know you guys out there. Yeah. Wake up. I see you. But we really got to think to ourselves, put ourselves in the CEO, or put ourselves in the shoes of that CEO. How would he feel if he knew that? If he's looking over your shoulder? If they start making cuts? Are you going to be the one that goes because of the lack of effort? I think now more than ever, we need to go above and beyond of what you do at work. Because not only do you need to take care of yourself and make sure that you're successful, but I think now we need to make sure businesses are flourishing. Right now businesses are hurting. There's a lot of businesses out there that are hurting. And if you're working at one of those businesses that are struggling, they don't need you to slack right now. Now they need you to work harder. And I know it's tough and I know it's a challenge, but local businesses in particular, they need you right now. So if you work at a local restaurant, don't be slacking off. Don't be dicking around. Work harder than you ever have before, because it's gonna help that business even more. It's gonna help your boss, your CEO, the owner. So that's one thing I'm really trying to do with my job now is, I used to maybe do podcasts like during my lunch break, but now I don't even do that anymore. Now I'll either do them on the weekends or, I'll do it after work or something like that. But I want to make sure that I give my company 8 hours a day. And if sometimes I don't even take a lunch because I work a little bit harder now during lunch, because I really want to make sure I'm giving my company 110% of Tony, because they deserve it. A lot of companies do. So, and then, the money you get from your job, I think that's important now. Before we used to maybe be not as frugal, and maybe you used to spend a lot of money, maybe you saved, and maybe you're doing the opposite now. Me personally, I've always been cheap. I think I even did a podcast about it. Yeah. Did I? Yeah. I think it was called Let's Talk Money. So check that out if you haven't already. But I pretty much break down, what we've been able to do to, in 6 years, purchased 3 homes in 6 years, and we're renting out one. We live in the other, and we sold house number 2 that we had for a profit. So, and we've only had that house for 2 years. We made a good amount of money on that just because of the market and the way it is right now. But, I've planned to do this for years. So I've always kind of been cheap. And a lot of you out there that maybe aren't cheap, you're starting to feel the repercussions of that now, because if you did lose a job, or if your job's in jeopardy, or your hours got cut, you don't have a nest egg. And you always have to kind of prepare for that rainy day. It's kind of cliche to say, but rainy days they do come, and you might need it, whether that's fixing up your car, or, helping out a family member, or whatever you got to do. We need to start thinking what we actually need in life. And do we really need all the fancy shit that we've been buying for the last 10, 15 years? Do we need to go buying pointless shit that we don't need? I mean, I feel like an idiot because I have so many clothes in my closet that I've spent years accumulating, and thousands of dollars, buying all these Express shirts, and, Armani Exchange, and Buckle, and all this shit. Buckle, what am I in high school again? But like all these fancy schmancy clothes, and, like my wife, I bust her chops about the shoes all the time. Guess what shoes she's worn since COVID? Her slippers. Yeah, slippers. Not heels, slippers, for almost 6, 7, 8 months. So all the money we spent on heels, a waste. But I don't know. That's obviously an exaggerated example, but you get my point. It's like, we need to really start thinking, okay, the money that I get from work, this paycheck, I'm going to take 10%, and I'm going to take it and put it to my 401k if you have one. If you don't, take 10%, put it to a savings account. Take another 10% and maybe put in a separate account, or label it separately. I have spreadsheets galore, and I label everything. So, sometimes you need an oil change, right? Every 3 months. Well, that costs you, let's say, $30. So I literally set aside $10 a month just for an oil change. And I do that with all my bills. I do it for, cable, and I do it for all my stuff that's reoccurring, that is never going to change, what they call fixed expenses, right? So the expenses that aren't going to change, like oil changes, gas, bills, cell phone, cable, water, all that stuff is usually around the same price. So it's a fixed expense. So you need to figure out what all your expenses are, and, set that money aside. Make sure you have enough to sustain, because something could happen, knock on wood, that you might actually have to dip into that savings to use it. So I always want to make sure my bills are covered, because that's not paid. So, when you are working hard at work and you're doing what you got to do, just make sure you're not spending a lot of money, because now is a very funky time, and we don't know what's going to happen with any industry, whether it's hospitality or retail, e-commerce. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's always good to kind of save money. And now more than ever is okay to be cheap. But if you are going to spend money, I would say buy local. That's what we're doing. Buy local. These big wig chains that are getting, buyouts and big stimulus checks and all that stuff. Do your own research, but try to buy local. Buy from the mom and pop's place that, has better Italian food than Carrabba's, right? Shout out Carrabba's, though. They do have good food. But, we've just been trying to do a lot more of that. And, while you're at home and you're not going out, and you're not spending time with family and friends, the ones that you can, pick up those hobbies. Obviously, my hobby is podcasting. I love doing it. It continues to grow, and I'm grateful for you guys. And, I'm using this time during COVID to really figure out what else I want to do with the podcast. Who else do I want to interview? Who else I want to talk to? Some of the greatest conversations I had were, like my friend who's a NASA engineer. That was an awesome conversation. A buddy who's an influencer that is also a personal trainer, owns his own company down in South Florida. So all these different conversations have been very different and very broad, and I love stuff like that. So I'm really using this time to kind of write out some notes and figure out what I want to do and how I want to bring more value to you guys. So that's kind of my hobby, right? And then, of course, my hobby is also working out, cooking more, eating. Even though I eat healthy, I want to eat more whole foods, plant-based, cook my own stuff, because now we have the time to. And it's with this new house that we have a bigger kitchen now. So I'm really wanting to make sure that we spend a lot of time in the kitchen, because I think there's something special about creating what you eat. It's great to go out and it's great to have fun and socialize with friends and get a glass of wine up in you and get some liquid courage. I get you. But there's also something great about just cooking with your family and cooking with your friends and doing it in the kitchen, right? And then eating it and being satisfied about it. So I definitely want to cook some more. That's another hobby. And I'm doing some work in the backyard. So that's kind of exciting. So I'm learning some concrete work and how to pour slabs, and we're going to create like our own custom bar outside. So, that type of stuff I wouldn't be able to do. I hate to say it without COVID. So I know it's a shitty thing, and I know a few people that have had friends and family that have passed away from it, from COVID, and it's horrible, man. It's horrible. We just kind of have to take care of ourselves mentally during this time, and we have to work a little bit harder. We have to be stronger. We have to be stronger for our friends, stronger for our family, stronger for ourselves. But we have to figure out what we want, though. We have to figure out what we need, what the future holds. Take this a little bit more seriously about you, not about other people. You. What is the one thing that you want to do? And focus on that. Figure it out. Use this time to really get excited about, hey, now I could do this hobby that I didn't have time to. Or I could do this. I could hang out here. I could do that. There's so many things we could do now. And I think if we just stop worrying about what's on social media, what's on TV, the new movie coming out, boycotting Aquaman 2 because the actress that, sued Johnny Depp's an asshole. Yeah, she is. I get it. But why are you worrying about that? Focus on you. Focus on yourself. Figure out your life first. Get healthy so that way, God forbid, if you do get COVID, you're healthy enough and strong enough to, to battle it. But you is very important. You is going to be the most important thing in your life. I hate to say it. It kind of sounds morbid, but friends, family, they come and go. They do. Your spouse, and you might get divorced one day. Your friends might stop talking to you. A lot of things can happen in your life. Some are as a result of your actions. Some might not be. Some just might not be fair. A lot of bullshit is going to happen in your life, but the one thing you can control is how you react, how you feel, what you do. It's just you, man. No one's going to care about you. It's only you. That is for sure. As you are here right now, and you could do whatever the fuck you want to do. So stop worrying about other people. Stop worrying about what they think. Stop worrying about what they say and what they do. Get out there. Love what you do. Love who you spend time with. And just love you. Because I love you. And I love me. And I love everybody. And I hope you guys are staying happy. Hope you're staying healthy. I can't thank you enough for those of you that tune into the podcast. It means the world to me. Truly, it does. I've worked very hard on this, and I hope it comes through in the content, and I hope it comes through in everything that I do, because that's all I want to do is just, I want to do this because it makes me happy, but I also want to do this because hopefully someone out there might get some value out of this. So until next week, my name is Tony Berardo. Thanks for tuning into the Berardo Podcast. We will see you soon. Peace. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Berardo Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Berardo. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at @theberardo. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast by visiting theberardo.com/thepodcast, or you could just press that little subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast.